I'm Naima Latif, and if you're watching this, that means you're one of the 4.6 billion people from around the world who are using an electronic device to talk to people. In these times, people are using the internet to talk to everybody. Friends, neighbors, family members, co-workers. People are on their cell phones and computers all day long. Now, if you're in business, that is great news. That means you can sell your products and services all day long and never have to leave your home. All you need is a media connection, somebody to connect you to an audience. And that's why I'm talking to you today. We produce programs, and our audience members are people who shop. They buy clothes, food, beauty supplies, cleaning supplies, home repair, transportation services, child care services. Whatever you're selling, they need to buy it. We're your media connection. Just follow this link, and tomorrow you can sit back and relax at home while your business is making you money.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution. Join me, Naima Latif, every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as we bring you stimulating discussions about the issues affecting our lives. If you're listening online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution, press the blue button that says follow and get our daily topics every morning directly to your email and your smartphone. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, Executive Producer of the Female Solution Radio Show. We invite you to call in 515-605-9325 and participate in this daily think tank as we examine the challenges we face and develop solutions that restore peace and harmony. We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network. Call 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
And in case you didn't notice the resemblance, we're also three sisters.
We're going to be coming to you every week, sharing our successes and our mistakes as we navigate our lives as moms, wives, sisters, daughters, and of course, Black women in today's world.
We'll talk about it all: race, politics, religion, economics, culture, and we'll take a look at everything from whether or not to use corporal punishment to how do you teach your children about sex.
Look for our upcoming book, Growing Up Charles. It's a personal story about our lives growing up in Maple Park on Chicago's South Side. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms.
their reasons are varied. I don't think it's one issue. I wouldn't insult them to think that it's just one issue. They're varied. I'm quite sure there's a multiplicity of all African American men. That's another thing. Not all African American men are not supporting Kamala Harris. There are African American males that support her. And I think for varied reasons. So, we have to be, we are human. We have different opinions, different viewpoints, different perspectives. And it is not the color of our skin that brings unity. It is our interests. And we are a community of varied interests. So I think it's a disrespect to expect all of the African American community and all African American men to fall in line behind someone that is running for the candidacy of these United States. We are not a monolith. You cannot take us for granted. You just assured, well, I know they're going to vote for such and such a thing or such and such a person. We have varied opinions and varied interests like every other ethnic group. So that's how I'm looking at this. What was the expectation? What was the expectation? Was that everyone would align themselves with the choice that the Democratic party made for the candidacy of the President of the United States? So I take umbrage with that. That we shouldn't be expected to, we are like any other people. We have varied interests, varied concerns, and so I don't think it's any one thing. And then to publicly address a small group. This was a small group of African American men that President Obama was speaking to. He was trying to garner their support, but I'm quite sure we are a multiplicity in our thinking, in our opinions, in everything, like every other group. And then, to address African American men, and it seemed like that this has reached a national platform.
Yes.
Everyone is focused on that. Now, speaking to African American men, the greatest threat to this nation, the Office of Homeland Security, have rendered an opinion that the greatest threat to this nation is internal domestic terrorism.
Oh.
Emanating from white, right-wing militia groups. That is the greatest threat. But I don't see anyone. It may be happening, but I don't see anyone addressing the Caucasian male concerning his threat to the domestic tranquility of this country. Now, if anybody needs to be talked to and talked to, it is those that pose the greatest threat to the existence of this country.
Now that's a good point.
Security have identified that threat as domestic terrorism. So if we want to have a national conversation, looking at one group of men, I believe that that conversation needs to be had concerning these militia groups. And not only those that are in those groups, but those that are not in those groups. Have them speak to them. So I don't want the African American male to be seen as a subject of someone that needs to be corrected. Be corrected. No, let's talk to the Caucasian male, those among them that the Homeland Security have identified as the greatest threat to this nation. They are domestic terrorists. So let's have a conversation about that and not the very choices of who African American males choose to support in the upcoming election. So that's my on that. Don't make us target. Don't blame us. I'm just saying.
That was not a rebroadcast. Well, I think that is a very valid point that you have made. And this, of course, is live. It's not a rebroadcast for those who are watching. But I think also the fact that when terrorist acts happen perpetrated by these various white supremacist groups, it's not called terrorism. But let someone else, particularly if they happen to be Muslim, and I don't think anybody in terms of these mass shootings happening at various locations, whether it be schools, grocery stores, theaters, none of them have been Muslims. And yet the phrase Muslim terrorist has been thrown around for the past 20 years. So if that's what the studies have shown, that the greatest threat to our safety is the domestic terrorists from these supremacist groups, these racist groups, then I agree. That's who should be talked to. That's who should be publicly admonished, because that's where the danger is. And I agree. Just because Kamala Harris is a Black female doesn't mean that she's going to support the issues that are in the best interest of Black people based on her own perspective, her upbringing, her position on things, and the people that she's beholden to who have gotten her into political office thus far. So the idea has always been people who look like you or people who have your similar cultural or genetic heritage are going to think like you and support your interests. That's the assumption that we keep making in politics. Is that a fair assumption, or is that an erroneous belief? Do people tend to vote their interests, whether it be based on race, religion, economics, geography? Or do people support and promote only those who are physically similar to them in terms of skin color, hair texture, eye color? I mean, those superficial things that don't really identify how you think. So that's the thought that we have to address, based on the fact that many people felt disappointment that President Barack Obama, when he was president, wasn't what they believe to be as assertive in addressing the disparity, the economic disparity that keeps us having a permanent underclass that is predominantly African American, due to the history of us rising up from centuries of no wages for our work and forced isolation and submission to brutality and abuse. So if nothing was done in the eyes of many people by a president who descended from an African father, then does that mean we need to stop looking at the artificiality of race as a rallying point behind somebody? Maybe we should not. Maybe we should really listen to what a person is saying they believe and what they stand for. And if we're doing that, is every other group doing that? Or is every other group voting for their race of people with the same assumption? If I'm of Hispanic origin, I'm going to vote for the person who's of Hispanic origin, even though there's the multiplicity of Spanish-speaking people who have different histories. So just because a person speaks Spanish doesn't mean they all think alike or all have the same intentions or perspectives. But we assume that the Spanish people will support the Spanish people, which is, why we've got this whole thing with the immigrants from Venezuela who speak Spanish. People are saying, well, that is going to increase the Hispanic voting bloc. Well, it may or may not. Who's to say? So the question is, though, have we been a monolithic voting bloc? And what are the common issues that we think any Black candidate should be addressing? And do Black men perceive that Vice President Kamala Harris is sensitive to their particular issues, especially the sore spot of police brutality, the constant profiling, being subjected to public humiliation and possible death just because your tail light on your car is out? I mean, that kind of thing that just keeps happening. Will a prosecutor be sensitive to the need to overhaul that whole system that really was founded in the slave patrol system? Is anybody going to say that out loud so we can just deal with that as a nation? Or is she not, based on her record as a prosecutor? We don't know. So are Black men right to be suspicious of her positions and right to hesitate to support her? But then what is the alternative? And is the alternative worse? Are we talking about jumping out of the frying pan to jump into the fire? This is an issue that we have to look at, because as a collective, we're about to name someone that we're trusting with leadership and guiding the nation. Should we not be putting that much power in the hands of an elected official? Should we instead be organizing in our local communities so that our needs are met not by the President of the United States, but by our block club members, by our community groups, our local schools? I mean, are we putting too much emphasis on the power of the president to affect our lives? Maybe we need to be more independent as communities, as opposed to expecting the government to fix all our problems, which it is shown that it can't. But certainly, I think our issue starts in our homes. There is something between the males and females in our community that's broken. And it's hurtful when someone puts it out in public, because it makes it seem like we're the only ones that are dysfunctional, when in fact, pretty much all families are dysfunctional on some level. But should Black men expect Kamala Harris to fight for their interests based on her record? And she says it's a good record. Some say she has been as harsh on Black men as the rest of those in the criminal justice system. Is there perception among Black women that Black men tend to be criminals, liars, cheaters, worthy of harsh punishment? Is that something that we have been conditioned to think as women, so that even when we get to positions such as Supreme Court Justice or Attorney General or Vice President, we're still carrying those negative views on Black men? Is that an issue? So what are your thoughts on that? I think somebody brought up the fact that so many Black women who are in positions of authority are married to white men. Is that a personal choice? Is that a political statement? Is that a cultural statement? What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that that influences the way a woman thinks, who she marries? Well, we're gonna take a break right after your answer, and then we'll take some calls. So what are your thoughts?
It's a mistake to just highlight one issue. We are bigger. We are larger than one issue. And concerning law enforcement, you cannot legislate morality. You cannot legislate moral conduct. That is an internal job. That is something that an individual has to exercise within themselves. So no matter how many laws are passed and all of that, if I'm confronted by a law enforcement officer, it's dependent upon his mindset, and his moral compass as to how I will be treated, regardless to what is written in legislation. You cannot legislate good, sound, moral behavior. You cannot legislate that. So I'll stop right there, my sister.
Well, that's true too. You can't legislate morals. People are either going to do right because they have the desire to do right, or they're going to do wrong because they get some kind of they're gonna follow whatever inside of them. Can you make a person not do wrong if the law gives them some kind of consequence for mistreating people? That's what our whole system is based on, punishment. Anyway, we've got to take a quick break. And when we come back, of course, we'll gladly take your calls and share your comments. 515-605-9325 or 515-605-9891. We did have a little technical difficulty earlier, so we do apologize for that. My computer froze. This is basically what happened. So you didn't see my face. But for those on our Blog Talk channel, if you're listening in, you did hear it. So we hope to share a little bit of former President Barack Obama's comments when we come back. So if you're watching and listening, stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Female Solution Global Radio TV Show invites you to an invigorating, empowering, interactive conversation with our team of hosts Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Start your week with Monday Morning Mindfulness with Zelda Speaks. Tuesdays, Gathering of the Griots with Asada. Wednesdays, Repairing Family Relationships with Naima and co-host Kareem Hamid. Thursdays, Veggie Brunch Live with Angela. Fridays, Health and Well-Being with Beata. Saturdays, tune in 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. First Saturday, Global Talks with Zana. Second Saturday, Walk in Your Divine Authority with Mama Joy. Third Saturday, Move Around with Deborah. Fourth Saturday, be a judge on the virtual Teens, Tweens, and Tots Talent Contest. And fifth Saturday, join us on location as we conversate at the Elevate Cafe, owner Jackie Brooks. Sundays, join us 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time for Soul Purpose Healing with Beata. Go to thefemalesolution.com to join us on our video or audio live streaming platforms. Listen at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. Call in on the Blog Talk Radio Network 515-605-9325 or call in and comment on the On-Air Radio Network 727-731-5192. We want to hear from you.
Yes, we do want to hear from you. And as always, we appreciate your joining us every day of the week for our fabulous hosts. And we appreciate your participation in our discussions.
Unmuted.
We have a chance to talk to each other face to face or ear to ear, however we do it. But we have a chance to share ideas so that there are no misunderstandings. Well, this is election season for many people around the world, not just in America. So over the next few months, we're going to see some changes in policy. We're going to perhaps see some emotional upheaval if people didn't get the person that they wanted. We're going to see changes in the way things are done based on who's elected. But the person that you put in position of authority, you're giving them your trust that you believe their guidance is going to be best for the nation. Well, our question today is regarding that recent scolding by President Barack Obama of Black men. Are the Black men resentful toward Black women? That's what we want to know, because his statement, we're going to play that for you in a moment. His statement was basically accusatory. If you're not supporting Kamala Harris, then you must be sexist or got some problem with female leadership. Now, I've heard this, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Brother Kareem, because I have many people who ask me this on a regular basis. They say Muslim men would never vote for a female leader because Muslims teach that women can't lead. That's part of the faith, that women should not be seen or heard and definitely should not be in positions of authority over men. Now, I have responded in a certain way, but I'm going to get your response to that accusation, that belief? And is there any truth to that thought, in your opinion?
You know, Naima, as I say once again, to frame a people or institution in a monolithic thought, that's so wrong. There are varied interests among every group. The Lord's country of Pakistan, they elected a female leader twice to head their government, a female. Matter of fact, let me get personal here. The head of American Muslim 360, the CEO is a female.
Mm.
Our beloved sister, Latifa Hamid, excellent leadership. The head of the community-wide Shore Conference is headed by a female, Sister Martha Naila Abdullah, and she's doing an excellent job, and we support her. So this misnomer of that all Muslims, all Muslims berate the leadership of females, that is not a fact. That is not a matter of fact. We have a large conference, a large convention that's held year to year in this country. It is called A Time to Be Grateful. It is headed by the editor-in-chief of our newspaper, the Muslim Journal, Dr. Boy, her name escapes me now. I'm getting older.
It'll come to you.
Aisha Mustafa. Right, Aisha Mustafa is the head of our national publications.
Mm.
There are so many, so to even repeat that trope, it does a disservice to human beings. It does a disservice to them. We have excellent female leadership in the Islamic Ummah, in the Islamic community. No doubt about that. So, there is no there is no basis for that type of thinking found in the sacred scriptures of the Quran, nor in the life example of the model for human excellence, our beloved Prophet Muhammad. We pray the prayers and the peace upon him. Matter of fact, the first Islamic scholar in this faith, in Islam, was a female. The men consulted with her. They sat at her feet, and she shared the insights of this way of life. And that is the wife of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, prayers of peace be upon him. That is Sister Aisha. She's the foremost scholar. The men would come and ask her insightful questions. And they sat at her and she taught them. So we have to dispel these myths. And those that adhere to that in this faith, they are off of the straight way. They are deluded. And women are definitely celebrated in this ummah. Matter of fact, they have taken their rightful place alongside, not behind, alongside the Muslim male. So I just wanted to share that with you and the listening audience. Don't be fooled by these blanket statements concerning what something is and what it is not. That's to shape our thinking and to deposit negative thoughts about us, especially about those things that will truly bring benefit to you, that will bring benefit to you. But they'll couch it in language and throw shade on it to prohibit you from, let me see what is this Islam. Let me take an independent, praise be to Allah, an independent investigation, and not just take the opinion of those that are in power. So you know, I mean, even the African American community, we have so many celebrated African American females in our history, not just present, in our history, that exuded excellent leadership. So let's not buy the lie from the enemy of human beings to separate the male and the female. Those lies are being strengthened. Matter of fact, Naima, you are the head of this broadcast. I am a subordinate to you. And I appreciate your excellent leadership, your insight. I have no problem with that. It is not our gender that qualifies us for having the mental and spiritual and emotional activity to be a leader. We recognize the content of any human being. And when we find excellence there, we're joining that. So that you know, this is the day of truth. Of truth. And I'm so grateful that you are picking these subject matters up. And the truth is becoming apparent. We all know. Very well know. A woman that represents the government of South Africa that speaks at the UN. Very powerful speaker. Yeah. Very powerful leader. So, you know, let's not repeat the old lie. Let's not even repeat those type of ludicrous statements to separate the male and the female. I'll stop right there. I said there are so many examples of excellent female leadership on this earth, and we should not allow the powers that be to separate us as human beings, but especially upon gender. That's all.
Well, I certainly. Well, very powerful words, and I certainly agree that there are many women who are in positions of leadership, and thank you for your support of this show and always being that voice of wisdom that we don't always hear, unfortunately, because there are people who have differing opinions about women. I've encountered some of them, and they believe they're correct. Everybody from those who believe that you should beat your wife if she displeases you, to those who believe women should not speak in public. I mean, you have people who have various points of view. Like you said, nobody's a monolith. Everybody's an individual. But those who have the more repressive beliefs about women tend to get the attention of those who want to attack the religion of Islam based on that. And it frightens women when they hear men speak of the right to beat your wife, or they see movies such as, I remember that movie Not Without My Daughter, played by Sally Field, a very strategically selected actress, showing how when her husband, who had been kind of a non-practicing Muslim, decided he was going to go back to his faith, all of a sudden he got really violent toward her, and she was, you know, she experienced being in an environment where women were beaten in public and, you know, nobody intervened, you know, all of those things. So things have been said that strike a nerve in women and create fear and distrust, because there are men who believe this very strongly, that women should not be in positions of leadership, nor should they be allowed to speak in public unless they're just speaking to women. I've been in environments where this is the strongly held belief by men, and they believe it's correct based on their understanding. Yes.
Can we hear from? I want to open up the mind of a Muslim woman.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we hear people talk about Muslim women, but we never hear the opinion from a Muslim female. So if I could open up the mic at your leisure for area code 727-741, is it all right if I open up her mic?
Oh, absolutely.
Other Muslims want to share this. Okay.
Absolutely. And
727-741, Naila Abdullah, the executive director for the Community-Wide Shura Conference. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. And as we said, thank you, Kareem, Hamid, and as Naima and I shared this platform, Naima, we say assalamu alaikum to you and everyone else, so both of you.
Wa alaikum assalam. This is Sister Martha Abdullah.
The woman. And two, let me just begin by acknowledging that Almighty God, you know, as we will go through the format of saying that we seek refuge with Almighty God and God with God's name, the very revelation, and within Revelation, entitled and Nisa, which is described as women, and there's much discussion tonight, and we'd love to have that connection to discuss that even more, not just pointing to Al-Islam as it is being separated from the other faith. We can go through that discussion that it's a unified process. But the essence is evidence that all one soul, that we're from one soul. And when the Creator has pointed that out first, that's our direction for the human family, it is the intellect, the intelligence. So when I hear, and I had to evolve and still am evolving, but to understand that all of us, we're using our intelligence. We've been blessed to go through the evolutionary phase of learning how to grammatically put sentences together to make a statement so that it makes sense. And our mind is working. So when I hear black now or white, I know that those are division words to divide and to keep the division. And the oppression that has occurred from the ancient days to show that we've evolved country by country. We had to elevate the status of women, but to bring us back to the eventual outcome is to bring us back to the state of that the intellect, the intelligence prevails over our complexion and over our gender. And then we can appropriately prepare the leadership for anyone, younger generations coming up, that they won't have this problem. So as we're striving to get it correct and erect that kind of leadership where the intelligence leads and it's not the gender or the complexion of the skin. I was just watching where the Ku Klux Klan, they have their tie to, they're saying they're Christian, and just 2 months ago, they're still holding conferences or whatever, in the woods and declaring that African Americans are truly from animals. So you see that's their level of intelligence, that we have to bring it out and let it be known. And the one gentleman with the hood on was being interviewed, would not let his face be shown because he said he'll lose his job. Now, where is he working? Where is he working? Is he a judge? Is he an attorney? Is he a teacher? What construct of unintelligible thinking is he putting out there to his belief? And so when we look back at women in the caste system and women for being unchaste, thought of being unchaste, and all of that has crept into today's thinking, and here we are still processing the erroneous part of our history that we need to progress from the intelligence. So CWFC, Community-Wide Cure Conference, is for mutual understanding of the intellect, group intellect, mutual connection and communication and collaboration. Thank you so much, Kareem, and thank you, Naima, and to everyone else. God's peace be upon us all.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Martha Naila Abdullah. We appreciate you. And definitely you are expressing the intelligence of a female who understands the issue quite clearly. Everybody is at different levels in their evolution of thought. And some people have a clearer understanding that we are all of value. We are all expressions of the creative energy of the universe we call God. So all of us are worthy of respect, and all of us are perfect just as we are created in our individuality. But some people have a need to believe that they are better than others, and they have a need to try to have power over others. And so the way they behave is of lesser intelligence because they haven't evolved to that understanding. Our challenge is that we're all living among each other. All of us are of various levels of evolution of thought, and we have to somehow get along with those who still don't have understanding, like the Klan member and others who are believing that they should elevate themselves at the expense of other people. So the difficulty that we have is when we all gather together and select someone that we believe represents our point of view. We're going to make decisions based on our own level of evolution in thought. So regardless of who gets elected, if the election is fair and they don't steal votes and that sort of thing, in a fair election where everybody either chooses to participate or chooses not to participate, whatever we get, it is a sign for us of where our state of mind, our collective consciousness is as a collective body. And in higher evolved societies, leadership is selected based on who is wisest, who is most loving, who is most reflective of the divine energy of unity and cooperation, who is most experienced in solving problems using their understanding of spiritual principles. That's how other leaders are chosen in higher evolved society. Well, for the most part, America is not a higher evolved society. It is one where we have a history of abuse, greed, and insensitivity and cruelty. And so who we are going to select will reflect where is the dominant influence. Right now, we have people who have beliefs that because someone has money, that makes them more desirable as a leader, not looking at how they use that money. Did they use it to abuse people? Did they use it to help people? Did they get it honestly? Did they get it dishonestly? A lot of people aren't looking at that. They admire someone with money. That's the state of their consciousness. And not to say Donald Trump has never done anything good. He's done some good things, but what are his values? And how does he believe in treating people? Well, those who support him, they're saying that the way he thinks and behaves is acceptable. Look at Kamala Harris. How has she behaved? And she has money as well. She has gained political authority in various aspects of the government. What are her values? What are her beliefs? How does she treat people? We have to look at those things and decide who best represents how we think. Some people feel like just because Donald Trump is a white man doesn't mean he's not going to act in the best interest of Black people. So we're being prejudiced if we discount him. Some people feel like, and some whites may feel like, just because Kamala is a Black female doesn't mean that she's not going to act in the best interest of white people. So choosing leadership is a responsibility. If we have built-in prejudices, then maybe the way we see somebody isn't really the way they are, but the way we've been conditioned to think of them. So I think female leadership could be a positive thing. The question is, will female leadership change the hearts of men who do not trust women in leadership because they see leadership as they see it more like a military leadership position, which means you're commander in chief. So that means you need to be able to go to war. And a lot of that kind of thinking is what is prompting Kamala Harris to say things that sounds like she's in support of a war, because this is what people who believe a leader is, one who can lead you in battle or send troops to battle. So she is making sure she caters to that element that believes that this is also what a leader must project: the willingness to fight and the willingness to kill. So I don't know, Sister Martha, what are your thoughts on that? Just based on what she has said and the position she's taken in order to convince people that she's the kind of leader who can also lead troops into battle. What are your thoughts on that?
Martha, you are my
yes. There is, and I'm going to answer that in connection with being human. There is a time when wars, there has to be. But it's through mutual discussion with others who have that intelligence and have that information. So think that this comes not to being female or male, when we're speaking of the one holding the intellect, having its ability, what's the ability of the intelligence? So the intelligence comes out from the intellect. Are you able to discuss things and logistically look at from those who have more knowledge in that arena? And if there's no other course than to defend the country and its need to exist, praise be to Almighty God, then you're not thinking of it as I'm sending people off to war, but you're thinking of all of the arenas. So you have all the intelligent ones around you. So is it a female making that decision, or is it a leader making that decision based on intelligence?
Good answer.
good group.
Absolutely.
Every president has a cabinet, and they surround themselves with advisors. And the leader has the sensibility to put in the process of mutual consultation, discussion, especially with something as critical as war. So the decision is just not made. It should not be made by just one individual. individual. And when it comes to defending the homeland, you know, women have been ferocious. Well, not walking, wrong word. Women have been very protective of their life and their children's lives. So they don't take, they should not take a back seat when it comes to the idea of war. Matter of fact, there needs to be more diplomacy actuated at this time instead of just war. So, you know, as we say here on AM 360, let's talk about it. You know,
Yes.
let's talk about it. So and Almighty God has said that if He did not set one people against another, the ruthless ones will definitely desecrate synagogues, churches, and mosques. So the human being is commissioned to stand up against brutality and dictators and wrongdoers. We have an obligation to defend what is right. And I do not just designate that to one gender. The female, I have seen birds. You approach the nest where their small offspring are, they come at you like they are hawks. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
But they will defend the life that they have brought forth. So there is no demarcation concerning protecting precious life. So yes, there will be wars. Wrong has to be confronted. Wrong has to know that there are people on the other side that are just as strong and just as willing to defend what is right, and promote that which is good. And that does not come in a gender. That's human. I'll stop right there, my sister.
Well, I agree. I guess our challenge is agreeing on which thing is right. And that's where our conflict seems to be in this election, because there are two opposing ideas on which is the right position to take. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. And we're going to talk about that later on. We're going to be joined by psychotherapist Howard Williams, who is he specializes in therapy for males who have had challenges in the criminal justice system. Is there a fear that the next president may not be sensitive to the injustices? Is there a belief that a male would be more sensitive, even if he's white? Is there a belief that a female, because she's black, would be more sensitive? Or is there a fear that she would not because she's female? What are young men thinking? And how is this affecting our mental health when we are living in fear of each other? We'll talk about that when we come back. If you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1 when you're ready to speak. And we will gladly take your thoughts. And of course, if you're watching us on our Facebook or YouTube channels, then feel free to write in your comments and we will share them with our listening and viewing audience. We'll be right back after this quick break, so stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif, and if you're watching this, that means you're one of the 4.6 billion people from around the world who are using an electronic device to talk to people. In these times, people are using the internet to talk to everybody. friends, neighbors, family members, co-workers. People are on their cell phones and computers all day long. Now, if you're in business, that is great news. That means you can sell your products and services all day long and never have to leave your home. All you need is a media connection, somebody to connect you to an audience. And that's why I'm talking to you today. We produce programs, and our audience members are people who shop. They buy clothes, food, beauty supplies, cleaning supplies, home repair, transportation services, child care services. Whatever you're selling, they need to buy it. We're your media connection. Just follow this link and
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
And in case you didn't notice the resemblance, we're also three sisters.
We're going to be coming to you every week, sharing our successes and our mistakes as we navigate our lives as moms, wives, sisters, daughters, and of course, Black women in today's world.
We'll talk about it all: race, politics, religion, economics, culture, and we'll take a look at everything from whether or not to use corporal punishment to how do you teach your children about sex.
Look for our upcoming book, Growing Up Charles. It's a personal story about our lives growing up in Maple Park on Chicago's South Side. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms.
We are back. You're listening to and watching the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. And if you are listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1 when you're ready to speak. And we will certainly take your calls. And if you're on our switchboard now, feel free to press 1, and we will certainly open your microphone. We were talking about the whole issue of selecting leadership, and if there's bias in certain groups toward female leadership. We're going to play that clip from, and this is just a report as shown on the BBC News. A lot of people, of course, around the world have been talking about the remarks from former President Barack Obama, and have been basically been debating whether or not they should have been said, or are there some truths to the statements that he made? Because, in fact, there are some feelings towards Vice President Kamala Harris based on her record as a prosecutor, her stance on the war in Israel, her expressions of what she did as a prosecutor, and some who may believe there was racial bias toward Black men, that may or may not have been true. I mean, if you got prosecuted and you were guilty, then there was no wrongdoing. But as far as being female, does that make a man sexist if he doesn't choose to support her as a candidate? Well, let's take a look at what was said and get more of your thoughts.
President Obama addressing some voters overnight, really.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for them.
President Obama there. Obviously, he has still remained hugely popular. I mean, he's being used now by the Democrats. What did you make of his address yesterday?
As somebody who used to work for President Obama and was on both campaigns, I thought that he was speaking to a demographic that is largely only visible online when it comes to the attacks that we've seen largely lobbed by the right against Black male voters. What we know and what the numbers bear out is that Black women vote in lockstep for the Democratic Party at near 98 percentile, Black men at 95 percentile. The real issue here is the white vote. White misogyny, we know, leads for Republicans, and they found a misogynist in chief in Donald J. Trump. We know that white women have consistently broke for the Republicans. They did it in 2016. They've done it in midterms. They've done it in several elections since that. And I think that the real question here and the real pushback should be, why are white voters, particularly white Christian voters, deciding that it is okay to continue to support, continue to vote for someone who is twice impeached, someone who has been found liable for rape, someone who has over 25 credible allegations of sexual assault, someone who instigated the January 6th insurrection? Why is that okay for them? In America, the shift that we've seen largely in demographic shifts towards the Republicans has actually come from Latinos, not Black men.
But nevertheless, it was interesting that President Obama did address the men in the way that he did. It has caused a bit of a debate, hasn't it, about raising, the question of potential misogyny. Do you think he was politically wise to do that?
I think that talking about misogyny in an election where a woman is running, in particular a woman of color, where we've seen misogynistic comments used against Kamala Harris, be it about her dating history, be it about questions about people who she has engaged with early on in her career, be it about attacks on her being a woman. We've seen those things happen, largely, again, driven by the right. Do I think that it's an important conversation to have? Absolutely. Much of this is the same conversation we were having with the last woman who was the Democratic nominee in Hillary Clinton. Here we are again, how many years later, having the same conversation. Misogyny is not only something that is affecting the United States, it's affecting women leaders across the globe. But I do think that the ire needs to be placed where it belongs, on the singular voting bloc that consistently votes alongside misogyny, that upholds white supremacy. That is conservatives, that is white men, and the white women who actually, help that vote to sail because they continue to break for the MAGA party and for Donald Trump.
And Sophie Stiles, if I could just bring you in, of course, another issue that obviously has affected some of the vote here in the UK, and we've seen, of course, campus protests in the US as well, is the issue of what's going on in the Middle East. To what degree do you think those sort of global political events are here to stay as a political influence in how people vote?
We certainly see them being important to voters across the board, but I think specifically in this case, we know that the issue of Labour's response to the conflict in Gaza was particularly important to British Muslim voters. I think what's interesting is that when we look at that kind of demographic of British Muslims, they tend to be quite economically left-wing, even if they are quite socially conservative in other ways in our survey. So we might expect that, if that issue isn't as important at the next election, they may be more likely to move back towards the Labour Party. Or they may, if it is still important, we may still see a shift towards other independent candidates, or maybe the Greens. I think what we find in our survey, which is quite interesting, is that amongst the white population in the UK, we tend to see that these kinds of social issues, as we will call them, so things that kind of aren't on those lines of tax and welfare and those kinds of economic questions, they tend to be very important to the way white voters vote. But we see that non-white voters are much more motivated by their economic preferences. And so I think it really depends on ultimately if an issue like Gaza and how important that's been in this election sets the tone for future elections, and we see that tilt towards social issues being more important.
Okay, Sophie Stars, Amisha Cross, thank you both very much for being with us tonight. Sorry, out of time. It's such an interesting topic. We'll come back to it, I'm sure. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All
this
right.
is BBC News around the world and across the UK.
That is it for that. And of course, all right, that's another person making a comment. All right, we wanted to share that with you because, of course, it is being talked about worldwide. And those are issues that have come up. And there are voting blocs that have specific beliefs about Kamala Harris. That was from the BBC News report. So the whole thing about misogyny, hatred of women, that is being discussed because there are populations that do not want to see female leadership. That issue came up even when Hillary Clinton ran, and it was largely, as it was shown, it was largely white women that did not support her. And we don't know if it's because they didn't like her husband, or we don't know if it's because white women have been conditioned to not accept female leadership because of their own cultural thing that has happened. We don't know if it just because Donald Trump ran a stronger campaign. We don't know. But she didn't win. So now we have Kamala Harris and Barack Obama saying he's not seeing the enthusiasm for her that he saw for him as a black male candidate. But is it more than just race that is an issue? And is it a big assumption that because someone is your same so-called race, that they're going to support your values? So we want to hear your thoughts. 515-605-9325. And of course, press 1 when you're ready to speak, or 515-605-9891. And again, press 1. And if you're on our switchboard now and have a thought you'd like to share, press 1 and we'll open your mic.
Yes.
Yes.
Caller here on American Muslim 36 Studio Board.
Yes.
Whenever you're ready.
Well, we're ready to take that call. Go ahead and open their mic. Give us your name, where you're calling from, and so we can put that on our screen. Go right ahead.
Area code 323-867. Please state the name and where you're calling from, please. Is your phone on mute? Oh, yeah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
It's Sister Kamala Muhammad from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
I'm sorry. Can you say that a little slower, please? Can you give us your name a little slower, please? I want to make sure I put it on screen for our viewers.
Okay, Sister Kamala Muhammad.
Okay.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay, and how you spell your name, sister?
I just want to say
Quran. How do you?
Quran. Yes, ma'am. Muhammad, Muhammad.
From Baton Rouge. All right, we got you. Okay, yes, go right ahead.
I just I just want to say that God did not design a woman to be over man, to rule over man. The only time that happened in the time of disaster, And I had just want to know, are we in a time of disaster that we have no man to stand up to be president of the United States? That is my question. And I was just saying, so that is like, and also she stated that she's not black. She stated that. She said it 3 times. I am not black. Alhamdulillah. And then tell me something that she have done that Donald Trump hasn't done.
You know, my sister, to say I'm not black, you know, what does that really mean? What does being black mean? It's just a color. That word has no intrinsic value to just identify someone or yourself as a skin color. What is the internal characteristics that one possesses? What is the intellect expresses? We have to get away from this color consciousness that is just lending support to the enemy of human beings, whereby we judge each other by the color of our skin and not the content of our character. We are not a monolithic group. We have different opinions, different values, even value systems. So just on the standard of the color of one's skin, I don't think it's intelligent to make decisions that will affect our lives.
Alhamdulillah. I'm just making a correction because that was a lie told. So you said it, and I'm just saying what she said. You know, you tell that to her. She said that she's not black. You said she was black. So I'm telling you, she said she wasn't. So whatever everybody else want to think what that means, that's their goodness. I'm just telling you what she said, that she's not. That's all. Alhamdulillah.
Well, you know, Sister Quran, I'd like to address the point that you rose, because again, I did say that there are segments of the population that believe women should not be in leadership over men. And there are those who believe that that is the teachings of their religion. And both there are some segments of Christianity as well as Muslims where that is the belief. A female should not be in a position of leadership over men. That is a belief. Sister Quran Muhammad just expressed that thought. So if that is a belief that people hold inside of them, that's going to reflect how they vote.
Naima, you know, the natural pattern of life puts that lie to rest. The female, the mother, is the first teacher of human beings whose soul reached this earth. She is placed in charge of that life. She is the first teacher. That's the natural pattern that God has created. So how can we denigrate the attributes of female when God has placed precious life under the authority of females? That's my question to those of a religious bent that says that the female should not be in a position of leadership. She should not be heard. She should be placed in the back row and stuff like that. That's not the natural pattern that God has created for us. We cling to our mothers when we first take the first breath, and she is the one that has charge of us. So let's get back to what is natural and not the erroneous prejudice, bias statements coming from men that inject their biases in the natural order of things. I'll stop at this.
Well, you know, of course, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but we just heard from a sister who has that perspective. And I'm sure there's some men who have that perspective. Don't be scared. You can call in. I'm not going to attack you. It's okay if that's how you think, because again, we're living in a world where people have differing opinions. They see things differently. They have strongly held beliefs, and we're trying to all get along, but sometimes it's challenging if there is a strongly held belief that certain people don't have the same abilities and skills or even rights as others. And that strongly held belief is often backed by their religious belief, which when people believe something religiously, they will claim that it is God's teaching. And how many different religions are there, and how many different sects are there within each religion? So that means we have all these differing opinions on what's God's words, what's God's teachings, what's God's commands. We can't even agree on that. 8 billion people on the planet, we can't agree on that. So how do we determine what is the correct way to treat someone when some of us are believing that others of us are not equipped for leadership or authority because we are lesser of intelligence, lesser in mental health, lesser skilled, whatever it is we're believing it. And so, I mean, there are many people who believe, based on what they have experienced, what they have observed, what they've been taught, that only white males are fit for leadership, especially leadership of a nation. That's a very strongly held belief, and not just held by white males. So if this is how people think, and they can point to whatever scripture they follow and say, see, this is what God says, this is what they have chosen to believe. And this is how that belief is going to shape their actions when it comes to selecting leadership. So can we be upset at people who, like our dear sister just expressed, believe that women should not be in leadership over men, even though you've explained how women are in leadership over everybody when you come out of the womb, because you're the one that has to nurture and protect their lives so they can reach adulthood. Like you mentioned, a baby, a baby chick is strongly protected by the mother, no matter what species, because that's the instinct of motherhood. You protect life, and you do whatever's necessary. I've seen a deer charge a lion. So motherhood is very strong when it comes to protecting life and leading and all of that. But you have religious teachings that says women should not be in leadership over men. And these are strongly held beliefs, even by the women. So how do we overcome that? Should we overcome that? And would an election of a woman in America help overcome that?
You overcome that by speaking a word to the right. Words have formed that opinion. Words make people. Words are containers of ideas. So all we can do is express the truth. The results is not up to us, but we have to have the fortitude to speak the truth, opposite of the lie. So as we continue to regurgitate the lie, then that forms the thinking of other people. So our voice for truth has to be louder than the voice of discrimination and oppression. We're obligated to speak the truth.
Yes, yes. Well, and here we are again. We have differing opinions as to what is truth, which is what we'll see all the time. And of course, if you've ever, which I'm sure you have, ever been involved in a group where there is, whether it's different political groups or different religious groups, and everybody believes that their opinion is the truth, and they believe everybody else is mistaken. So how do we get to the point where we can collectively see the same truth when everybody's differing opinion is expressed in their minds as the truth that everybody else should be following? Can we ever get to that point where we agree? And how do we get to a point where we agree? I mean, there's this war situation in Gaza, and the strongly held belief is that the people, well, the strongly held belief by those who are supporting Israel in that war is that Israel, they say, God said, is the chosen people who should have that land, have a right to push the Palestinians off the land and make them stay in the designated area where they have been given, no matter how painful it may be for them to try to do so. The people in Palestine say that the people who came there and took their land should not be there, and they have a right to their own state because they have historically been living in that land. So you have two opposing views, and both sides believing that they are representing the truth. And other nations are being dragged into that conflict. And as we live in a nuclear age, any escalation of war threatens to annihilate the entire planet. So it's in our best interest to make peace. And yet is either candidate speaking words that sound like they're going to make peace, or are they going to keep trying to force a people to accept being taken off their land, believing that if we beat you down long enough, eventually you'll just succumb? Is that wise? Well, we got to take one last break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at leadership in terms of, does it mean you have to be strong enough to go to war, or does it mean you have to be wise enough to make peace? And which leader is most likely to do that? And is a woman capable of standing up strong for peace and not being accused of being too weak to lead? We'll talk about that when we come back. And if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9891, or the AM 360 line, or 515-605-9325. Join us here on The Female Solution. And if you got a comment, you're watching, we want to hear what you have to say. So write in your comments. We'll share them with our listening and viewing audience. We'll be right back after this last break. So stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. We're talking about the Obama scolding of black men. Are black men resentful of black women? And is there a fear of female leadership for real? We'll talk about that when we come back. So stay with us.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three black moms.
And in case you didn't notice the resemblance, we're also three sisters.
We're going to be coming to you every week, sharing our successes and our mistakes as we navigate our lives as moms, wives, sisters, daughters, and of course, Black women in today's world.
We'll talk about it all: race, politics, religion, economics, culture, and we'll take a look at everything from whether or not to use corporal punishment to how do you teach your children about sex.
Look for our upcoming book, Growing Up Charles. It's a personal story about our lives growing up in Maple Park on Chicago's South Side. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima.
We're Three Black Moms. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms. The Female Solution Global Radio TV show invites you to an invigorating, empowering, interactive conversation with our team of hosts Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Start your week with Monday Morning Mindfulness with Zelda Speaks. Tuesdays, Gathering of the Griots with Asada. Wednesdays, Repairing Family Relationships with Naima and co-host Kareem Hamid. Thursdays, Veggie Brunch Live with Angela. Fridays, Health and Well-Being with Beata. Saturdays, tune in 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. First Saturday, Global Talks with Zana. Second Saturday, Walk in Your Divine Authority with Mama Joy. Third Saturday, Move Around with Deborah. Fourth Saturday, be a judge on the virtual Teens, Tweens, and Tots Talent Contest. And fifth Saturday, join us on location as we conversate at the Elevate Cafe, owner Jackie Brooks. Sundays, join us 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time for Soul Purpose Healing with Beata. Go to thefemalesolution.com to join us on our video or audio live streaming platforms. Listen at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. Call in on the Blog Talk Radio Network 515-605-9325 or call in and comment on the On Air Radio Network 727-731-5192. We want to hear from you. Yes, we do want to hear from you. And we've heard from one of our commentators here on our Facebook and YouTube channel. Joseph says, oh, this is hot. He's got fire on here. Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, it's a hot topic. It's a hot topic because, you know, this thing with women and men, this has been going on for some centuries. And we got to address it. It's painful, but we have to address it. We have religious teachings that say women are cursed or are responsible for the downfall of men. We have religious teachings that say women should stay in their homes. We have religious teachings that say a woman should be stoned to death if she has sex outside of marriage. I mean, we have all these very vicious beliefs about women coming out of our religions. And religions come out of our state of consciousness. And then we attribute it to our creator, that which we want to inflict on each other. So if anything is unloving, it is not coming from our creator. But since we believe that our creator is as unloving as we are, we will say that God said, and then we will proceed to abuse each other in God's name. And we've been doing it for century after century after century. So how do we get to a point of understanding of a universal truth that all are of equal value? Well, people can say we're equal value, but that doesn't mean, you know, you're equal in terms of abilities, and women shouldn't lead. That's what many believe in their hearts. So is there an aspect of leadership that requires superior physical strength? The reason why we're saying that. We're not going to see Kamala Harris get out with a sword and shield and armor and go charging an army. That's not what's happening. So why are we believing that a woman shouldn't be in leadership over men? Are we believing that she is less mentally capable? Some people say, well, you know, women get PMS. Well, is that it? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Kareem?
You know, when we look at the candidacy of Hillary Clinton, the majority of this country in numbers, they voted for her. And among those numbers, I'm quite sure were males of different races or whatever. But she won the popular vote. Isn't that saying something to us? She did not win the electoral college, but numerically, the majority of American citizens voted for her leadership.
Yes,
so
they did.
Isn't that saying something to us? That this idea of that women cannot lead, doesn't that put that lie to rest? Or shall we just continue to repeat the lie and ignore the evidence, ignore the practical application concerning the leadership of women? It does no good to continue to repeat the lie when the evidence, the practical application has been placed before us. We have a caller on the line that have been very patient. If I can open up his mic at your leave.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. We'll take that caller. And, we also, we had Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. So she did ascend to a position of leadership, as was Condoleezza Rice. So we had two female secretaries of state, very powerful position in the world. That, you're right, that does say something, that we have had women in positions of leadership. So go right ahead, caller. Give us your name, where you're calling from, and your comments, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Muhammad from Prophet Muhammad.
Hey, Brother Muhammad.
Georgia. And may Allah forgive us for our sins, etc. The woman, first of all, we have to get what we agree across, whatever you believe, especially in what we call revelation. The woman was created to be a reminder to man of his responsibility to his creator. That's her job. And also she is the procreator of this responsibility of human beings who are supposed to come out of that creation that Allah gave them. So women, I want you to understand, you are number one in a very important role in this world of reality that we live in, because Allah gave you that opportunity 3 times to convince the man that the mother is the responsibility to remind you of your manhood, your mind, and you're committing what's in your heart, where she came from, using the paraphrasing that is in history. It was close to your heart, which is the Quran, which is the word of Allah, to guide you against your open enemy, the Shaitan. So don't let anybody question the ability of a woman. We already know God said she is the teacher, the feeder,
the nurturer,
love that she needs to be mindful that her protector, where she came from, out of his heart, out of his surroundings in his ribs, and the maintainer of the procreation responsibility that both of them have, of making sure that those who come into this reality will live. Now, I just want to say about President Obama, what he said. He using the science. He said, I heard when I was a child that the mother is more responsible in raising us to be a man, a protector, and a maintainer of the environment that we in, so she can raise her children to be peaceful. So don't just throw away things so quickly. And he was trying to wake up the men of color. I ain't gonna say black, the men of color. Mm-hmm. To remind them that he is supposed to be a Christian, one who has been anointed. And he said, I accepted it because it made me see the truth of the light of the world at that time when I became anointed. Prophet Isa told me there would be one who come after me, who would guide us into all truth. And I come from a mother who is a miracle. Who had a miracle, me. So we need to be mindful that the political wording is other things that tell us what we shouldn't be involved at all. But just giving a response to that statement, he was trying to wake us men of color up.
So, Brother Muhammad, let me ask you this question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know you're a very devout Muslim.
I know you don't want to hear what I got.
No. I have a question because I really want to know your opinion on this based on all that you've said and of course your strongly held beliefs. Do you think that a female could be in a position of authority, such as president, which puts her in a position of authority over men? Do you think that is something that is in divine order or even should or could happen? Do you think that that is something that you, as a Muslim man, could support? Whether it's this woman or any other woman?
When women come into authority, it's by Allah's will. Because man has become so
good
weak
answer.
that he has lost his responsibility of protecting and providing for her and the children of the world. But we're here to procreate. And he's not providing protection. He's not providing food, shelter, clothing, transportation equally across the board for all human beings. So President Obama is supporting her to try to let everybody, let men of color, use that term, understand. You got a choice between her or a man who is lower than an animal because he comes to kill all the men in the society so he can abuse and misuse the women. So Allah puts the mother in a position because he knows that we love our mothers.
Yes, we do.
And a mother reminds a man that he has to be, you have to go away and be a man and protector of the women who you marry or in the children that you bring in this world. And to keep reciting this until the day of judgment when we all will be winners and get to see the world after this test that he gives to the Shaitan to test us.
Well, we thank you, Brother Muhammad. We definitely thank you for your comments. We're about to wind up in the next few minutes, but we thank you so much for sharing that thought. I want to share a few thoughts with people who are watching as well. I'm sorry, what was the last thought? Yes, and then I'll share some thoughts from people watching.
Yeah.
Before we go.
Well, I pray Allah that y'all will not voice that comes out of me because it's not mine. I sat on this phone for 2 hours because I support what 360 is doing. Yes. But remember, 360 is supposed to be the voice of Islam. So people are looking for an Islamic solution from us, not confusion, fitna, and dividing up the world any further than what Shaitan is already doing. It's looking for us to bring us, the people, together. And they will come together because Allah created them. We're supposed to be all Muslims. That's act like it. The disbeliever, the non-believer, the hypocrite, they're all Muslims. So in their heart is the Quran, just like it's in ours. Let's call the people back to prayer.
Well,
inshallah.
I appreciate that thought. Absolutely. Of course, we are discovering that there are varied thoughts among the Muslim population as well as the Christian and the Hindu and Buddhist and all the other populations. There are differing opinions between the blacks and then there are different opinions between the whites. So we're discovering that even though we might be in the same group, we all still have our independent thoughts. And that's the challenge of creating unity in diversity. We've got a couple of comments here I want to share, and we might have another call we can squeeze in. Viata says, the men I've heard who oppose Obama's condescending attitude have been listening to Kamala and don't believe she's qualified to lead. They're not misogynists, but appear to have a more conservative view and believe the last 3.5 years show her weaknesses more than strengths. Woo, Viata, well, you made your point known. Yes, so this is what Viata said. It's not about her being a woman, it's about who she is herself. And of course, Deborah, our third Saturday host, says, that's right, wake up, men. Yes, and Deborah says, this is an equal opportunity position. where are the men to get in the position of leadership? Well, that is true. Whoever chooses to run for office, that is a big step, and it takes courage, whether you're male or female. But definitely, there are people who have differing opinions about who Kamala is, her positions, her past record, and they're making their choices based on what they perceive. And we all think differently, even if we have the same skin color, same gender, same religion, we still think differently. So, Brother Kareem, you've got the last word. We've got a couple of minutes. If you have any other callers that want to make a statement before we go.
Yes, Sister Quran has raised her hand once more.
Oh, yes. Go right ahead, my dear sister.
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Praise be to God.
Well, we thank you so much.
Yes. Truth is truth.
Mm.
And those of us that stand with truth, we have to speak out boldly in support of truth. We have to make our voices heard, and we're grateful to use this vehicle, the Female Solution, American Muslim 360, and other broadcasts and situations that are speaking truth to power. Speaking truth to power.
Speak truth to
I'll stop right there, my sister. Thank you, Mae. As always, a very intriguing, very intellectual, stimulating subject matter this morning. Thank you, my sister.
Well, thank you, my brother. We appreciate you for your wisdom. And we thank all of you who are listening and watching and commenting and participating in this discussion. We are a collective body of people on this earth, and we must make choices that will ensure the good for all of us, because that is our responsibility to our earth family. Let's choose wisely, and let's take responsibility for those choices. I'm Naima Latif. Join us again tomorrow. We'll be right here back on the Female Solution with Veggie Brunch Live with Angela. Until that time, continue to shine your light.
60 seconds.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.